Ready? Go ahead and get started on the meeting. Yeah. Yes. Move to do that. So, there. You have something you want to say?
Oh, real quick, just a couple things. One, this is a big month for music in Webster Groves. The Old Orchard Gazebo series has been great on Friday nights.
Dave's on one second, and she can hear as well. No,
Pardon me?
You wait 1 second, and she
Oh.
can hear as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, things going on in music in the next month. The Old Orchard Gazebo series on Friday nights is great. Very well attended. Our 5th annual World Peace Concert is this Sunday, September the 8th at the Garden Cafe from 4 to 7 p.m. It'll be great. Their 5th one. The Big Monster Jazz Fest, the Jazz and Blues Festival, is Saturday, September 21st on Warren Allen Avenue. And then I've been setting up this last weekend our 5th annual Porch Fest. This year it will be in the Northwest Webster neighborhood where Judy happens to live, and she's got a great house with a great porch, all shaded.
He does.
Oh, it's great. And so we're setting that up. So there's a lot of music going on, that's all I want to say. And then the second thing
Do
is
we have
that,
those? They'll be on the, they're on
They're
the
on
website
the city
already.
calendar, yes.
Yeah, so everyone can see it.
Yeah. And then the second thing is that I know there was, for the last month or so, there have been emails gone back and forth regarding the potential of a city slogan called City of the Arts. And it's just kind of gone back and forth. I'm not really sure where it stands. I'm just a resident. I'm out of it. I think you all know where I am on the issue. But I just hope that it's still on the table for you all to talk about and maybe take action. That's it.
That's something we haven't,
You as a commission have not brought that up to
we
business
really
yet.
haven't talked about
If you want
whether,
to do
what
that.
we wanted to do about, well, last time, a few of us were here, that we're talking about. This has gone back and forth of whether or not it needs to be official or as it has been, that everyone supports the arts, but we have not made it an official, asked for it to be official. I should say signature for Webster Groves. So I'm not following the agenda exactly, the new business. I was looking at the old business. Is that okay? The old business being, is this something for later? Do we want to talk about whether or not this commission wants to propose that it be an official part of the city would be saying City of the Arts would be an official logo?
Well, I think we first have to talk about it before we.
Well, that's what I
I think
meant.
she's
You wanna
asking
talk
if we
about
wanna
that,
add
whether or
it
not
to
do you want to do that?
New business, I do not want to add it to new business for this meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a big one.
But I'm fine with adding it to a future meeting.
that's pretty much the whole business, so we can go to the new business.
Need to approve minutes.
And the movement, sorry, the minutes.
4 sets of minutes in front of you.
We got
We're
lots
going
of-
through
Yes.
multiple editors. You do not have to approve them today if you want more time to look at them. I understand you just got them. So if you want to hold on to them, you can for one more meeting if you want to read them and such and make sure. So it's up to you all.
We need to approve all of them.
They need
He's
to be-
saying we can approve them now, or we can wait if we want more time to read them.
I prefer to wait.
Okay.
It's fair.
I would move to postpone approving the minutes to next month for April, May, June, July.
Okay,
Mhm.
let's do that. Is that everyone agree?
Move to second.
Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
The council presentation.
Madam Chair, you all had made a request in May. You should have a packet in front of you that was submitted from this commission to the city manager and then to the council. This is that meeting tonight. You're in the Gordon Room at 6:30 PM. You can join by Zoom. As we've discussed in previous meetings, Alex has prepared a presentation and such. The packet that you see and that you have, the council's already gotten in their packet. And then they would get this presentation that Alex has put together, which he is going to drive us through and all of you. So.
And then just to contextualize this, a lot of this has to do with just referring to all the pre-existing documents. So, I mean, what I did is I just kind of peppered it into a presentation. So a lot of the verbiage is the same. But it's just trying to contextualize it. And then it's also really utilizing this study that has just come out as well, which has arts and culture all over it. So it's just really trying to integrate the things that already pre-exist.
If I can add just quickly as Alex goes into that, Madam Chair and members, B is about the comprehensive plan, which you had all spoke to the Lakota group about. And I think you will find that just as an update, it's all, the Lakota group listened very well to what you had to say. You will find arts and culture all throughout the comprehensive plan discussion. And also that part of your conversation, the master plan, was making sure the comprehensive plan included that, right? So these are really yoked items in that regard.
So just a draft, but to also remember that it's tonight. So any revisions that you provide me, we'll try to revise and
do it right.
yeah, we can edit them down and things like that. But let me, and I was talking with Eric about this. I said, oh, I'm gonna be 5 slides. I think he gave you 19. So, so here we go. I kind of really start with a mayor's quote here as it pertains to the economic study that talks about the impact of the arts generally for cities. I'm not going to read, what I'll do probably tonight is I'll probably read through some of them. I'll decide kind of, you know, what type of points to mention and things like that. But, you know, some of the goals I see is really, again, what Eric just mentioned, is the strategic integration of the arts and culture master plan into the comprehensive master plan, establishing a framework and a path for implementation of the arts and culture plan. So it's like, okay, so if one item is done, the second item is actually the implementation. And then, yeah, I think resources are a big part of this too. So anything that you create where it's integrated into all these planning documents and it's official and it's approved, there needs to be resources behind it. And I think it can be public and private. I think it can be, you know, substantial public, but then also, you know, as I keep saying, I think, why isn't there a community foundation that is set up to allow private funds to integrate broader? Again, I'm not going to read every slide, but you know, this is all coming from that economic study that was put out that really talks about the impact of the arts in cities, economic development. See, I have some overall In the greater St. Louis area, attendees spend $35.74 per person. Beyond the cost of admission, these dollars represent vital income for local merchants and an added value for industries which can, I'm gonna X that out, can compete. Also talking about when people go out to these arts and cultural organizations, right? It's an entire experience. It's an entire economy. You know, they are paying their babysitters money to go out. They're actually paying the admissions for the place. Then they're paying for parking. Then they're going out to eat. So it's like it is an entire experience in terms of economic development for cities. And this kind of gets into, you know, by the numbers, right? And specifically, that economic study really talks about the fact that, you know, here's St. Louis area, and you can see multi-million dollars, right? The economic activity supported 11,986 jobs. That's incredible, you know? So, and then provided 611.3 million of personal income to residents, and additionally generated 155.2 million in tax revenue to local, state, and federal governments. These numbers are astronomical, and that's just for the greater St. Louis area.
Is
Right.
this a RAC study?
Yeah, and I need to be able to refer to what, let's see, I think I have it in here. Oh yeah, all data from the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6, the Economic and Social Impact Study by the Americans for the Arts in St. Louis metro area in partnership with and
Regional Arts Commission.
Regional.
Take the green and take it out. Click on the green right there. Just click it up and pull it right up to the top.
This one? Yep. Much better. Okay. Yeah, so again, by the numbers, so you can kind of just see again, the non-local attendees reported the primary purpose of their visit was strictly to attend a performance event, exhibit, venue or facility where they were surveyed. Just some data by the numbers. It's just the economic data that's coming in. And then what I kind of move into is really the plan objectives. And this refers to that kind of pre-existing Artways plan, right? When you remember, we talked about this as a group, is that this is a framework. This is just the beginning. We can revise this plan. I think it's in our intention too, but it's a pretty good one already in terms of framework and how they talk about the gateways, nodes, and paths. So I just I really just reintroduce already that's already in this plan, what a gateway is, what a node is, what a path is, right? I mean, and I can talk with council about those specifics and things like that. But then I start to just kind of go right into this because I think this relates to this, right? And then what you found is art and cultural is integral to this entire report. Theme 1, creative economy. Theme 5, culture and community. Theme 6, parks and open space. Well, that's all arts and culture, right? So I don't know what that percentage is. Like 3 out of, so that's half, 3 out of 6, right?
Well,
Parks and open space.
well, but also mobility.
Yeah.
I mean, I
They
make
all
an argument
relate.
for anything, but those are the easiest ones.
They all relate, and this is kind of what I want to get into too. This community character, again, land use and development. If we think about it, it's like they're almost, this report's almost mimicking the language that we already are talking about in terms of corridor, district, neighborhoods, community spaces, historic preservation. That's all the things that we're talking about here in terms of gateways, nodes, and paths. I love this idea that it's Lakota Group, right? The Lakota Group has kind of mentioned these opportunity areas. So they've already defined these opportunity areas in this report. Okay, how do you integrate an artist residency program into the development of this project? How do you create public art infrastructure into this project? How do you create a loan program from an art institution to where you can create creativity into these projects? New, reused, old, whatever. How do you create the opportunities for the creative economy? And that's what we do so well. And we know how to do, and we know how to like create the opportunities and the structures to do it if we just kind of allow it to occur. Parks and Recreation, I mean, I was just blown away by this. The open space is 120 acres. So you just have such an ability to pepper the landscape. I understand that you want the open spaces to be open, right? So it's like, I understand that you don't want to fill every parking corner with a sculpture or a mural or what have you, that you don't want to fill those spaces up. But how do you integrate them more strategically into the landscape? You know, I'm at Blackburn all the time. The girl with the umbrella is a signature piece for our family. We love it. How do you do a similar type of thing where you kind of like, okay, when was that put in? You know, 80s, 50s, I don't know. What has been done within the last 5 years, 10 years, what have you? Nothing? Okay, let's think about that, you know? Community systems. So right here in the plan, we talk about foster for the city arts, support local artists, arts organization, and cultural initiatives. We already have the cultural organizations here. How do we better collaborate with them? How do we better create the systems for, okay, well, yeah, let's do another loan of an artwork that is in the opportunity zone of blah, blah, blah. How are you going to fund it? Well, let's fund it both on a public and private level. Housing and market, here it is again, fostering the arts, embrace the arts as a pillar of Webster Grove's identity by adopting a strategy for building a creative economy. Okay, here's the strategy. We've already kind of created the framework for it. And I just kind of recap on the goals again, right? Because really the goals, again, is to use this idea of the framework. How do we kind of refine this and start to use this report and and integrate it into the master planning process? What I recommend is that we are a commission that has the expertise to do this, but at the same time, do it strategically because the city understands the holistic picture of all of the land use and what they want to do and things like that. So we are the advisors and the expertise to do it, but we don't have to write it word for word. That is why they have these hired consultants already working on these projects. You know, I think we can create the framework, the technicalities of the implementation, the identification and the approval of the dedicated revenue stream. It's going to take resources, money to do it. So how do we say, look, we started the conversation that City of the Arts. If you're the City of the Arts, how do you dedicate resources towards that? Can be a lot of private funding. I think there's philanthropic opportunity here. And how do you, in a sense, inject that, you know, into the, and this is really just kind of the next steps. I would really prefer the session not be a lot of me talking. Actually, I know there's 19 slides there, but I'd actually prefer it more so being council having a conversation between council members, and then of course with me and just general. I want to know the things that I don't know. There's a lot of things that I think I don't know about the city, about council, about their priorities. So, you know, the 19 slides is lengthy, but I'm using that as context so I can kind of go back and talk to them about X, Y, and Z, or dig into something that maybe I'm making an assumption on.
This will be to that point. This is your most important slide, right? Because they'll leave this one up, and this will be the questions they come back to. Are we answering these for you? So what are the questions you need answered from the council? What direction do you need? Pointing the ship in the right direction? Are we not pointing in the right direction? Type of questions, you know. And then also, council, what do you know? I would even go right as you may have been there somewhere, but talking about the revenue in the previous slide, the third goal, right? Like, should we start working with departments on revenue? Or is that so much farther down the road for you all that we're not near that point yet? You know, I mean, I've never asked council that question, so I don't know what the answer is.
I would make the assumption that we are nowhere near that implementation piece yet. I would make the assumption that it's already integral to the ordinance, right? We already exist as a body, so the value's already there. But the things that I don't know is that, like, I don't know the budget.
Right.
Inside and out. I don't know like what the 10-year, 20-year trajectory is in terms of like revenue streams and what the priorities are based upon this. and things like
I don't think council's gonna answer that question for you either, but you're gonna tell real quick if council already has all the money that they think they've got spent in their minds, right? You're gonna find out those, is our mission really on this? You know what I mean? We're talking about where the budget goes and such,
that.
so.
And this is what my cell is too, is that, you know, I've talked with Rick about this. If you're gonna create play structures, why not create play structures that integrate local artists, creations and opportunities? It's the same type of play. And you could do the same type of safety and regulations and everything else, but you're creating access, opportunity to artists and the creative economy, right? Why go source that stuff out to a vendor, which by the way, is doing the same type of stuff. I've seen what they're doing with the paints and things like that. They're doing all the same type of stuff. You can do that here locally. You could actually give the opportunities probably to a Webster Groves resident if you really wanted to dig into it. Or you could give it to a St. Louis kind of regional or what have you, which is what I would probably more advocate for because you have a larger pool. But you could try to prioritize Webster Groves, where everything goes back into the local economy is, I don't know, it seems like a pretty good, easy sell.
One recommendation that I have when you are presenting, I think that the personal, a little bit of the personal story is great. One thing to think about with your language is not to say, I think, but to say, reflected in the, the Lakota, group study, the community has stated this as a priority.
Right.
The commission, we support. So personal story is great, but, talk about, broader community reflection.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And like, I see a very actionable step regarding like that one thing that you just said, with, if we bring in new play structures as an example, which means that as somebody who has to deal with procurement requirements, can make adjustments to procurement requirements. It makes things cool.
I mean, procurement requirements are in finance. We deal with that all the time with local sourcing and
Yeah.
such, so, yeah.
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
figure that out.
I'm not, what I want to try to, because I know this from local governments, is what I don't want to do is create ordinances and more bureaucracy to have them be defined by saying like, look, percentage X needs to go to the creative economy and things like that. What I want to do is that allow maybe us as a commission to look at your problem creatively. That you're already executing from vendors. There's a lot of different ways that you can do the same thing while integrating arts and culture into the mix.
Having a conversation between the different committees, the business group, the business committee here, like, oh, maybe go to the commission and ask them for a thought, arts commission. Or if we're thinking of something, just like if we were to identify public art that we really decided was a key priority, we would coordinate with the parks department or the streets department or so.
There's also another way too. It's like there's kind of this umbrella holistic way of the government working, the local government working, and then there's also this idea of the moving forward kind of new opportunities way as well. Like here, look, just focus on the three. Right? It's like focus on the three rather than the umbrella. So I think there is two different ways to kind of tackle the issue at hand is that you can go, look, just focus on the three and let's maybe pilot these three. Right? Like maybe that's also a good way to think about it as well, is that it allows you to not bite off more than you can chew.
I would expect those three are gonna come out with much bigger plans than more than you're gonna get on a streetscape beautification and such in this report, so.
So Eric,
Yes.
when will it go to Bruce,
Timeline,
timeline?
so this is about another year to go on comprehensive plan. So this is the state of the city after all their gleaning, their economic data and such. Now they really kick it into, what do they do with these opportunity areas? What do they do with, what do you do when Crossroads starts to grow a little bit? Now you need expansion. Do you take out residential? Do you build up? What do you, how do you go with that and such? So all business areas and such. So that's what these are really focusing on there. What's that next step in these types of areas? West Pacific Avenue, that's Douglas Hill, the Douglas Hill development up here on the next level, Webster. Boston Road, you obviously know Marshalls and Summit, that's Maypop, Zeta, that neighborhood and such, where the streetcar used to come across the big bridge way back in the day. And so we have some land there, little extra spaces and such. So there's opportunities all throughout that. How do you, sort of prime that pump again and such?
Just one thing, I don't think there's anybody on the council who was there then. We did have a track record trying to work with Crossroads at one point, which did not, it wasn't terrible. We tried, Jerry Welsh had actually found a sculpture that she thought would work very well there. They said they wanted, and it never worked, and they, I think, didn't really love what we were doing. So just letting you know that, so that's a model that didn't work quite so successfully.
It's been a change.
But
So I still work with Crossroads and
Yeah.
they've got their streetscape grant approved now for the county, and they have set aside, actually got a donation of a piece of land to go to the right of way, be able to get some public art, because the county needed it for a sewer drain. So we now end up with a little green space there, sort of down by Art of Entertainment, right on that end.
we're good, that's better. Yeah, it was going to be right at the intersection.
Yeah, so, but the point being is that, we've been able to sort of move things along there, that there is value in this, and that, foot traffic, right? They went from a service industry, service professionals, district now to retail. They're retail and restaurants, and they're gonna be the only nightclub in all of Webster Grove.
Well, they want our advice as to what
I think
kind
they-
of sculpture.
I think I think they will want their advice. They're advisory too. Ultimately, it's, council has to decide what's gonna go up in this space, so.
This idea of the identified sites is really interesting. I know all of these sites are always changing and shifting. Priorities are shifting, blah, blah, blah. But it would be nice is that you don't piecemeal the idea of this, right? Is that like you go, okay, here's 3 sites that we're gonna identify, and whatever that means is that it doesn't necessarily, you look at those sites and all of their opportunities therein. What holistically are those 3 sites really meaning, and what holistically is the city trying to do with those sites? And if we know the answer to that, or maybe the city already does, then you can inject the creative ecosystem into it, right? And I bet that hasn't been injected into those 3 sites, or hasn't been thought of in that type of thing.
They're thought of holistically. There's certainly creatives in each of those spaces that are doing something, but it's,
Yeah.
I think of Maypop,
Look,
Maypop's
we have here's this huge wall in which it faces blah, 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 blah. That should be a mural. Here's a space in which, you wanna put an artist to do an artist, right? Like how do you really think about those ecosystems? Because we all know this, that artists kind of look at these problems and they see it differently. And they're able to accomplish the same things with much less. And they're able to, and I think this relates to what we've talked about in this group is like the culinary arts do a great job at this. It's very tangible, right? That ecosystem is very tangible here. But we don't have as much, I don't know. Well, I think we lack the fine art tangibility.
I think we also found when we talked to Scott with Parks and Rec, what their ideas were, that he thought they were some difficult and hard, but when he started, like, I'd like a sign of welcome to St. Louis, I'd like it to, or to Webster, I'd like it to light up. It's easy, man. Like, what do you want? You just want us to give you some designs for it? The
Yeah,
ideas are there, they just need us to present, here's what you can do with it. Because even when we played with the playgrounds, because he was going in with a natural structure. Like, we can do a natural structure, but we can do this, which incorporates the land around it.
I think the departments and the staff here, as all governments are, is they're going with the set of vendors that they've always gone with, or that they trust,
Yeah.
and that deliver oftentimes for local governments, right? That like those are their clients, so they know how to do that. So I understand the risk of kind of going, okay, you're gonna now go with an artist, but these artists are sometimes operations themselves, Traco fabrication, right? You know him. They do international architectural design. They're right here in St. Louis. So they're working with artists and fabricators to kind of do that type of creative intervention. And I think the vendor list just needs to expand a little bit from its traditional government client vendor list. You actually might get it done faster. It's just like one avenue though. So that's the stuff that I want to talk about is I want to kind of talk about it, I guess, on an umbrella level, but I also want to hear what the council is thinking, right? Like that's really what I want to hear is that like I want to know what the vision is. You know, we gotta like these are my goals. Our goals. Our goals. These are our goals. But what are the city's goals? And I'd probably believe that they're very similar, or worded very similar. Because we already have that creative economy here. We just need to, I don't know, we need to own it. We need to own it better.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Yeah, great job. How long do you have with?
40 minutes.
Yeah, you said it was like a working session. This is why I was really excited about that.
You're the only ones on, only an agenda item. So they'll go through and do their little updates and then I don't think they have any interviews for board and commission, so they should be relatively quickly into this conversation. So yeah.
And they get a copy of the.
They'll get a copy. They already have a copy of the
They already have a copy.
and they'll get a copy of this ahead of time and it'll be on the screen. So.
So the code book comes back in here with their
Yeah.
plan.
Mhm.
Then what do you see happening?
The comprehensive plan, once it's adopted, is very much a 30,000-foot document. So the point of the comprehensive plan is then all future zoning changes and all future plans have to conform to that. So if someone wants to come and build Douglas Hill, right? Let's just use that as an example. We all know, does that fit now this community input document we've all gone through and talked about? Are these elements that you're talking about? They've left no room for public art. That's a major value of the city and it's in the plan that has to conform to that. And if it does not, it's not eligible for rezoning and such.
When you do like RFPs, do you insist that
At
they
times,
conform to the
yes.
plan?
If it's something like that, we have very few RFPs that end up with a design element or a zoning element. But we sometimes do streetscapes as an example. And we're requiring public art somewhere. That's great. They'll give us a design and then oftentimes it's, well, can the city buy this land? Is there anyone actually going to, or easement to give us an easement to put art on it in such a way, you know? So that's what Crossroads already sort of solved that for us in the process with the county. So we do at times, but it's really dependent on the situation. And again, the comprehensive plan sometimes never, I think in this case, it's really going to identify those because we've made it very clear. Some of those values aren't identified in comprehensive plans. They sort of evolve as the plan is already in place, you know, and then it's not in that, it's something else that's guiding that plan. So I would expect out of the comprehensive plan, you'll end up with an economic development plan coming as well, a full economic development plan. What sectors of business are we looking at bringing to Webster Groves? You'll see as you look through this report, what kind of commercial properties do we have? Now, we're in our 4th out of 5 years, we're doing property taxes tonight as well. We had 0 new construction in the business districts and commercial real estate again this year. You know, last 5 years, 4 years out of the road, no new commercial construction. Commercial construction is where cities make their money. You know, I mean, it's, God bless you all with your residential taxes. I know they're high, right? But it's not your residence taxes that, you know, really, they fill our coffers. That's what we've got. We only take $1 million in general property tax. That's all we take out of a $22 million budget. It's $1 million in property tax. So we take 9 cents on the dollar. Schools get most of it, which is fine. But again, commercial development is what drives our world. So you're gonna see that a lot. What do we do with commercial? How do you not lose historicity, but how do you also incentivize more of it? So. Is that helpful?
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about, especially looking at a revenue plan. So if we think it's gonna be adopted in a year, we're gonna have some
Right.
private revenue plans. something we should probably be looking
So,
for, so that it can be introduced.
Let me add to that on the strategic plan of the city, which is separate from the comprehensive plan, but ties in. We had come up with the tax, so I agree wholeheartedly with Alex, right? I mean, we get called to fund things all the time. Or we end up with ownership of things all the time. We're like, how'd that happen? How did we get this, you know? But there's no Clayton Community Foundation in Webster Groves. I mean, I know there are 20 people in this town that could sit down and around a table, and if half of them wrote a check, we'd have a well-endowed foundation to start off with here, a good starting point. And so we have been charged with starting to seed those conversations, bring some people together about, let's create this outside entity. Because I'm always talking about, what's our non-government partner? What's our non-government partner that's running this event and doing these things? We don't have that in some cases. It's just been us because it's a good idea. So we pick it up and we do it. You know, or if someone, Dave, when you were going to leave, you know, who's going to take this on? We want to keep this going, right? And so having that partnership in some way, but we don't have that partner. You got the chamber that's, you know, business membership entity. Webster Arts didn't want to take some things out. You know, so you're in a different space and different.
Although make no mistake, it's a lot of work.
It's not
a lot of work. But if people care about this community, which they do, they'll want to invest in it and they'll want to get the tax deductions from it. Additionally, to be able to invest back into the community. So, but if you're not asking, you're not going to get, you know, and if you're not asking for their service, you're not going to get either. There's a lot of competition for people's dollars, but there's a lot of pride here. And that is what you are, that's what you're capitalizing. You can capitalize.
So the strategic plan has some of that. I think the problem with revenue outside of contributions, okay, going that world, is the city's relatively revenue limited. You can always ask for more property taxes, ask the voters. I think we've got a little sales tax room specifically in the general category left. There's no necessarily dedicated art funding that the city's eligible to grab, right? You know, or a stream to say, you know, we're going to pull this into the arts world. They can dedicate general revenue. Then, of course, now you look to the future. Well, we need a second ambulance. Second ambulance, you're talking, is that 3 shifts of firefighters and paramedics? Is that 9 new staff members at about fully loaded, 125,000 a year, you know, in cost just to start? Is that only 6? You know, what is that in the future? What is that 3 years from now? What does police force need in the future? Does it stay the same size? Does it get bigger? We try regionalizations and we get, you know, neighboring cities get scared off. We're too big for them. They feel they're getting swallowed up, but we're all like, we're too small to be on our own as we stand individually. So we bump into all those problems as well. Like, how do you scale up those services and make them efficient as we can without losing community identity, but also still being able to maintain our community support of them?
Last thing, I mean, if we get into the conversation and we talk about, well, what are the models, right? We were just talking about the private foundation model, community private foundation model, which is public-private partnership. So there's one. It's 1% for the arts, right? So we can talk about that type of thing. There's also public art fund type of models as well. So there's a lot of different models that a lot of different cities are already using, either in Missouri or the nation, that work really, really well. And they fit the community that they serve, right? So we can take from all those models and create whatever makes sense for this specific community. You know, we don't have to just go, look, I don't like the piece of this here. And it's like, we can take those pieces and kind of create that, start with some type of quasi-governmental organization, then graduate into something else that supports the creative economy, that supports arts and culture, that supports it, you know, beyond a $10,000 budget or a $5,000 budget. I'm talking about like real development and infrastructure to be built. Because these developments, you know, people want it to be beautiful. They want it to be beautiful. If you're going to sell townhomes and all these other types of things, it's got to be clean. Beautiful public art is what makes it. So. I could talk about it all.
So I'm going to do just a final formatting check and such, make sure everything lines up okay for you. I'm going to grab those 3 pictures that are a little old from the archways that are a little grainy, find some new pictures to represent them on our files and drop it in. So otherwise it'll be the same as Jules. Jan, did you want to say anything tonight? Or has Alex got this show all day?
I'm gonna, I think I'll be there, but let Alex
Okay.
do this great job on this, Alex. I think very good. So
I just want to make sure the mayor calls the right person so long.
that's right.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next?
Comprehensive plan, Madam Chair, I think you've gotten that update through this conversation in B. So just want to make sure everyone's good. Okay.
Good. Go to the Jerry's
Yep.
sculpture garden.
Sculpture Garden, so it's official. Obviously, you saw it in the paper, it's all done. It's well, I should say it's all passed. It's not all done. We're obviously have a lot of things going on in Parks and Recreation with just a little building project down there going on, but Scott wants some input on what you all think for signage and also event. If we obviously go with a much more like we call them the monument style signs, that have more masonry and such behind them, it'll take a little longer than a put two posts in the ground and put a sign up type of thing. But what's your input on, as it was your request, what kind of signage would you think would fit well there? It's probably something not off the rack and from a vendor, I would think. So, how long does that take? When do we think this really turns into a unveiling and such and things like
That's the
that?
thing.
Mhm.
That might take a while, or would this
It very well could.
would this commission be the one to determine that?
I think you'd have input in on it. The Parks and Rec too, I think. I think two commissions would really have input on
So
it.
we would have to come up with something and then
Yeah, I think,
present it
yeah,
to Parks.
yeah, I think Parks and Rec is probably pretty open in terms of what's this gonna be. I mean, they've got various different signs across the parks, but
Right.
what fits this space?
What is this sign, and then do we wait till we get the sign and then have an event with Jerry?
Certainly can.
That
I think that seems to be the thing I would do. But
I would
I
think.
want to
Yeah.
leave it to all of you. I mean,
And given the conversation we just had and going to some local artists and getting
Yes.
some ideas for
Absolutely.
science.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, can we go back a minute though? The last I had heard, they were not willing to bend the rule about 4 years.
City Council
What
mentioned.
city council overrode.
Parks and Rec Commission
Yeah.
gave an advisory recommendation, just as you did in the request, and City Council said, we'll let this one go. Or not let this one go, but we'll waive the rule and put it.
So we should try to find some local.
I think if you have folks that you know are interested and do that kind of work, if you have them get in touch with me and I'll connect them with Scott, and then we can sort of scope this. I mean, we need to do that too. Like, I don't know what the budget from Parks and Rec
Does
is for
anybody
signage
know
on that regard,
anyone
so.
like that?
Well, let me,
Anyone?
Quite a few.
I was about to say,
Yeah,
Rick
that'd
is,
be perfect.
Yeah, and I'll talk to Melody Evans. When she was on the commission, she was a great resource for local artists.
Oh, wonderful.
So that would be helpful to just have some variety of things.
Yeah, I
So we can get going on that. That would be excellent.
think the thing about that is also, that park is interesting, because you have actually like got a lot of different faces where people come to that
Yeah.
park. So where do those
Yeah.
signs go? Are they on the
Right.
insides of
Right.
Gore, looking back down Kirkham? Are they on the ends of Kirkham, looking back in towards Gore, where that point? So I don't know, and I'm not telling you have to know that.
also, what's the language? I mean, just develop, like, what are you saying on this particular?
I think it's Jerry Welch Sculpture
I
Garden.
think it's
You're
just
right.
saying
That's it,
name,
yes.
right?
Okay, so it's like, what's the language of the sign, and then also, yeah, what is the,
What's the size? I was thinking about how, where, you don't want it you don't want it real small, you want.
you might,
Right.
I mean, it might be too, like a phone call with Scott. I know Scott's
Right.
busy, but it's a phone call with Scott from Parks to go, just what Eric, you were just saying is that there's all these entry points. Okay, but also what's the logistics of it? Meaning, is there a water sewer here? And then is there like, decide where it should go and what should be on it first in terms
Or
of the
they.
language.
I'm thinking you're gonna have more than one.
Multiple.
Yeah. But also the artists might have an input,
Right.
but yes, there's the practical matter
Yeah.
of where it can actually be, whatever could go. And then what will work and, to think about.
I think what I'm trying to communicate to you all is, normally if we were gonna put a park sign in, Scott Davis decides what parks.
Right.
So I want to make sure to go to Scott and say, our commission has some input and some desires on seeing done things a certain way, and we'll work through all those logistics. We will. I mean, I've talked to Scott about this, like, do not just go order a sign company. Do not do that. So.
Or do you, this needs to be posed too, do you want it to be that kind of creative sign? Or is there already artwork and sculpture and things like that are already pre-existing? You know about this, Judy, is it like, are you competing against the things that are there? Or not? It just depends on the
You can
location.
do something that is still has more design ethic to it
Got it.
than our standard and not necessarily can be, I think there's a middle ground, but it still might behoove us to think in terms of somebody with.
You
really
can think of
strong
height,
design.
if you're going around too,
Yeah.
you know, where it is one.
So is there a general budget for these signs?
Well,
So there is, the ordinance signs are usually put in the parks budget. I don't know, I mean, the ordinance signs are, we call them ordinance signs because it's literally ordinance that creates a park name. It can range, you know, I mean, if you look at Ivory Crockett, that little sign looks like a memorial headstone. Like this. But Blackburn, that big nice one, that Blackburn that wraps like that's probably gonna run these days somewhere between 10 to 12,000. So by the time we put all the masonry and such in there, so we know it's gonna have a cost, right? That we know and such, so it's really a matter of, that's why we don't wanna just stick a pole in the ground and, you know, metal sign for public works, you know, that doesn't come, so.
We also found with Scott, like, if you just kind of listen, he has a general idea what he wants.
He does.
And then you drop the art and he gets excited.
Yeah, no.
And then it's like, we had good conversations with him about designing and stuff.
And that's how I was working with Barbary Park.
Yeah.
He will respond,
Yeah.
because I still think, you know, it's gonna, if you put it one side or the other, the sense is, oh, this is Jerry
Yeah.
Welch, what is that? You know,
Yeah.
so you have to deal with it.
Who's gonna spearhead that? Who's spearheading the next?
Well, I think,
thing?
so I've got some next steps. I'll get with Scott for some better details, but start finding your resources so that we can, you know, not have it just fall in the vine somewhere.
And I wanna work on it too.
Cool.
And I would help spread the word once I know a little bit more about the types of
Mhm.
parameters as well.
So it starts with the conversation with Scott?
I think so, yes. He hasn't, I mean, he didn't even know if, should it be on the end, should it be in the middle, should it be one sign, should it be two signs? I mean, it was so fresh to him, you know, and he's got so much pool water park in his mind right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, those things that it's, oh, we got a sign. I mean, it's, you know, it's important, right? And, but on top of it, it's one of our premier park areas, you know, it's a space that we pay a lot of attention to, so we want to get that right as well. And match the honoree, right? We want to match the honoree. We don't want something that doesn't fit Jerry. So. There's no well-defined process, so I'll get you the report back next month and we'll go from there.
So we'll have a better sense.
Yes,
next time of what
maybe
Our
you'll,
timeframe is.
next meeting, you'll have.
I didn't know if anyone told you that you were going to be involved. That's what I was more concerned about. Some people just said this, Arts Commission will take this on. I was like, do they, the Arts Commission are taking this on? So.
I mean, but in terms of timeline though, in terms of the process,
Mhm.
in terms of understanding your vendors and fabricators and actually getting something into the ground or what have you, I mean, you're looking at spring, summer.
Yeah,
of
Yeah.
2025,
yes.
right?
Which would be great. I mean,
Mhm.
to do it at
Right.
that time. It would be nice. Yeah.
I was not thinking of November installation.
No, I just wanted to make sure that we were all clear on the timeline.
So you wait till next, you would have maybe people interested or different
Yeah,
people?
so, well, after
For
a
next
conversation with
meeting.
Scott and getting some names of people, yeah. Yes, sir.
Then if they had a particular idea, would this, how would we determine?
Yeah, it's a great question. We get that information from Scott. I mean, when we order a sign, we obviously sort of know what we want, so we go price a sign. But this seems to be more of like an RFI, or maybe, I wouldn't call it an RFP. That's a very specific request, but like an RFI, request for information, request for qualifications, an RFQ, where you're asking an artist to sort of give you a sense of a design idea. You
Right,
can do that proprietarily, and then, you know, sort of judge them. You could have almost like a.
That's what I was gonna say,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we can do that process,
You-
so.
You contacted people and asked for them to come up with.
Right.
What their idea would be, and then,
Yeah, if we're gonna do that, finance creates a whole document along with parks about the specifications that we
Okay.
know and want, and then the other areas of creative design that are flexible and such, and deadlines and things, so everyone's got the same equal opportunity, and
that's what I was gonna say.
but that we do that all the time. That's procurement, so what we do.
I remember you were saying that there were a couple spots that were still open in the sculpture garden. Is that correct? I don't know if any of those are appropriate or like where they face, but just to think about that in relation to sign, I don't know. Anyway, just bringing that up.
Yeah.
If there's
one
anything
is
that
the pad that's on the,
Uh-huh.
south. And I always forget, we go north, south or
East,
east,
west.
west,
East,
east,
west.
west.
It it also
West
be
end.
one where.
I don't think that
Wanna
would
make sure.
work.
Yeah.
Somebody can actually see it, so.
And also you have to, I mean, think about the tree cover and where,
Mhm, mhm.
again.
Yeah, I didn't know if any of them had
somebody to
enough
go out there and
visibility,
be
but-
Thinking, yeah.
Yeah, if it would be sort of artistic and I could also have a signage element, but if it's not, all right, then.
Well, I think an arch that goes from one side to the other.
Yeah.
That,
I mean,
Well,
just-
no, it spans both to overboard.
Does Jerry know about this?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
She had to accept to be able
She's
to.
actually-
Yes.
Well, and then, I mean, maybe that's also some of those conversations as well. It's like.
Well,
so the
I
park
was
is-
gonna also talk to her because I think there are some artists that we had
Yeah,
talked as the commission had spoken with that she's particularly fond of, and one of them, one is a metal worker. They might want to be.
Right.
That's very cool.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
You can do archways down there. That's permissible. It's our roadway, so we can do that. Has to get high enough, obviously.
Yeah.
we got this approved, but now there's still more.
Well, I mean, that's a different approval to get.
Yeah.
But it can be done,
Yeah.
yes. That's our approval, not anyone else's, so.
Yeah, so.
it's a tricky thing that you're trying to do. I mean, you're trying to create that timelessness of a legacy, right? In a lot of ways, you're doing that. And a lot of times what I've seen is this traditional aspect is the sculptural bust or whatever. It's like, but how do you break out of that type of thinking?
If I can just, when you mentioned an arch connecting these two, what I love about that idea, not only collects those parts, but is that not great welcome into?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
So which way do you face the archway? Which way is the lettering face? It's cut through.
Maybe get them on both sides.
I know.
Yeah.
Like maple, like.
No, I was just. Yeah, maple, yeah, when you're. back
Yeah,
here.
Maplewood,
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
No, I think that's great.
Yeah, I love that.
We've talked a lot about that in streetscapes. And this Crossroads been doing, and other folks are just like, why can't we have something over the road, over the road, like the Grove, I mean, just in
Yeah.
terms of
Yes, yes,
placemaking
yes.
and such. So.
It's very well.
I think it's hip. I think it
Mhm.
is kind of both timeless and
Mhm.
modern.
I hear arches are popular in Seattle.
It is. Yeah. So then should we move on to until to the lifetime achievement planning?
And away, folks. So the Councilmember Bliss sent in one posthumous nomination. I said, we haven't opened nominations yet, but I'll keep this until you do so. It was for the former cartoon editor from the Post Dispatch, lived in Webster Groves for many years. I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
I'll find it. So, but she just sent that on. So we've got that. Other than what would you like to do for Lifetime Achievement of the Arts? So, the weather good guy? I can't remember.
Well, we talked about, I mean, really, it's pretty broad. We talked about, do we want to open it to community or not? If we want to open it to the community, then we definitely yes. And really hone in on what we want. We talked about the different ideas going through were the Lifetime Achievement Awards, maybe presented to individual artists in any artistic field, benefactors of the arts, educators, or art supporters based upon their artistic achievements in the fields, and that's where we can put that out, field of visual, performance, musical, or literary arts. So that was kind of the simplified version that of just looking at what was out there, came through. Maud asked, should we add crafting? I personally think is part of visual arts, and not separate, because that would be both visual and And then somebody mentioned we include culinary arts, so,
We included, was literary.
yes,
arts?
literary is
Okay.
in there, yeah.
And we've given an award to.
Yeah.
Cheryl Hurwitz.
Yeah. So, yeah, presenting individual artists in any artistic field, benefactors of the arts educators, or art supporters, based upon their artistic achievements in the fields of visual, performance, musical, or literary arts. Kind of covers the gamut. And would allow for, if we want to give one to Jerry, definitely a supporter.
And then what, and then there's a statement about their connection to Webster Groves too, isn't there? Whether or not they have
Here's a wild idea. I don't know if this group has already talked about this, so if I'm just mirroring the idea. If you have a Jerry Welch sculpture garden naming occurring, when does this lifetime achievement occur? Why wouldn't you just fold it into the two?
So I was thinking the same thing, but if we want to do a 2024, we should do a 2024 and then Jerry would be 2025.
Yeah.
And but there's, and as I understand it, there's never been a specific time. It's just been annual.
Because we've done February, actually, I think we've done October.
Depending on the person.
We did October.
We did February, yeah, so no, there's.
Well, I would definitely advocate the Jerry, because you already have the
Yeah.
events and you have the
Yeah.
monument, you got all the stuff and you got the neighborhood, you got the
I
whole
like that.
aspect of it.
If you're sort of set that direction for 25, and that seems like good to go, I don't know if I would open up the community in 24, let's turn around, and shut it down in 25,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah, because we're predetermined already, so.
Right.
You may want to
So-
think within the commission, it's how you used to, right, around the table, yeah, so.
Do you want us to entertain the culinary arts idea or?
I would personally.
I think if we have a candidate that we feel like, oh, this is a really good candidate, opening it up for discussion, I don't think we should shut it down in terms of, yeah, that's not included. But I think you have to have a good, kind of reasoning behind it.
Dan's on the-
Especially since we have such great restaurants that are opening up in Webster, you never know when one may.
James Beard on it, so.
I mean, I don't know what the precedence has been. I feel like since I've been here, it's been kind of sometimes a difficult thing to find the right person each year. And it's sometimes been kind of like trying to reach out to people who don't really,
We go back.
Yep, I'm gonna go back to 2 seconds. That way
who
everyone-
don't really
everyone-
live here, or, we've been reaching out to people and not heard back. And so I don't know what people think, but I mean, does this have to be a yearly? Or can it be as you know that there is somebody that deserves to be recognized and this award comes up, rather than it and be like, we have to have some this year, who's it going to be? I feel like it makes it more
Yes.
more
We don't have-
special that you have somebody that you're like, wow, this person stands out.
Especially as we're trying to define exactly what we.
Yeah.
Requirements to be.
Remember, we talked about this, about whether do we need to have it every year or not? We can't, in other words, not just name anybody.
Yeah,
just
like-
because we have to.
Right, like don't, yeah.
If we decide to make it public, it's gonna be annual.
Yeah.
'Cause-
And then-
Yeah, so that's another thing.
And it has been except for 2020, for obvious reasons.
When you make it public, what would the process be? Would you make it be more of a
Like a
public
foundation.
engagement type
Yeah.
of process where you're like, submit your names or what have you?
The idea behind it is that, it is also that, maybe we should honor the longtime Webster Groves High School arts teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know who that is or what their value is, but to receive public submissions and input, that'll let us know that this person is retiring next year and they really should be honored, or this person is, So those people that are not big names, that are not published, but have made a significant contribution and may not be within any of our immediate spheres, opening it up more broadly, and then by making a statement that says you need to be this type of person connected to Webster Groves in this way. So it's also saying like, if you're an arts teacher in Webster Groves, but you're not a resident of Webster Groves, you're eligible because you've contributed to our community. And so I think that that statement has something defined to that. And so having that very open statement, but stating some specific criteria, and then eventually we add, a very, like a timeline of submit any time of the year. We make a decision in September, and then the event is in October. Like we could formalize it, or we could say, make it by this quarter, and the award is done in this quarter of the year. And then, and then the commission does a vote on what's submitted, and,
So.
Could also open it up to
Based on it.
nominations and not
Yeah.
make it necessarily a like, hey, we are looking for these kinds of people, give us your ideas, and you can have like a nomination form, but it doesn't, you could also not formalize it to be like, it has to happen at this time of year. It's like, we're always considering people for this.
That's
And
true.
reach out to schools and their places and let them know that, hey, this is a program and we're now opening it up. But, it doesn't have to be an annual situation. They have
That's
to
true.
expect.
And how would we do that? Are we gonna?
it would be like a form on the.
Yeah, form
On
online.
the website and ask.
Yeah, and you could do outreach to like local, the schools and
The
just say,
schools.
hey, this is now more of an open process. We want you to be aware of it to the principals and to superintendent and things like that, and just get more. That, hey, this is out here for you, should you have somebody that you would want us to consider.
Well, certainly get more attention. by-
Yeah.
by the-
I mean, in our little description of the Arts Commission, that is one of the things that is cited that we do, so sort of people a little bit know about it, so I think it's great. They are part of that.
Could you not create that and then say for 2026?
Well, yeah, we can do whenever. If we put that form up whenever, we can do, everything you're talking about is very simple for us. I think the only thing that holds you back potentially is we've always budgeted for essentially one event, the award, the event and all that a year. So, which is fine if you're gonna do more. We can always go back and ask the council, and they're not gonna say no to you on these kinds of things, or you can maneuver your budget around. Okay, we'll take a little out of events here to move over there for this thing, we can figure that out.
So the first thing is to get something on the.
Easy to do. You tell me what you want the form to look like, I can build it out up there.
We have to decide on
Someone just send me what you want, so.
what we want to say.
And I think there is something in there already, which I didn't have, but about connections to Webster. Is there, do we have our,
There's somewhere that's been read. Criteria.
citizens of Webster Groves? So how would we want to change that? Is it not just citizens or those connected?
I provided some language in one of my emails saying, I'll have to go look it up.
Because we've had people that haven't been citizens.
I would
at the
also
time of
change it
awarding.
Oh, I think you've got, awardees. Awardees do not need to be current residents of Webster Groves to be considered historical. Must have historical, cultural, or community ties to Webster Groves.
Just resend it there.
Yeah, I can.
Resend it to Eric and just get it.
And then again, do you want to add culinary arts or not? And I can just send this part to Eric.
Everybody seems to be.
I think it's fine. Yeah, add it.
Doesn't mean we have to.
Yeah.
So do we wanna move ahead to try to get it?
Well, and to your point, my kids are young, but my sister-in-law was just hired as the new art teacher at high school. So is the old one retired and should we look into him? I mean, did you just pick something out like a program?
Totally random.
No, my sister-in-law's the new one, so.
I think what you've talked about, I can see operationally, like, you don't have to worry about what I mentioned. If you want to open this up now, you can still say you can still know we're gonna give Jerry one in 25 when we open the park.
Right.
Because you can still have a great nomination come in and drop another one in 25, and honor.
There's also, I will state it again, that the opportunity for this to be a fundraising activity. I'm not saying this year, but awarding, it could be a great way to raise money to perpetuate arts in Webster Groves in some
If you would
cases.
like to honor or the honoree, would you like to make a contribution?
I don't, we don't have time for that conversation, but it could be a variety of things. It could be a public event and a ticketed event. It could be, yeah, making a contribution in somebody's name and honor, that sort of thing.
Do we want to make a motion about setting the timeline, the definition that we, are we adding to that definition that's there, or do we want to add?
Well, here's something, I'm sorry, this is a whole,
You have that.
nominations for lifetime achievement awards may be made at any time during the year, but nominations for the blank award ceremony, if we wanted to have an annual award ceremony, we should probably have it at a specific time.
Yeah.
Must be submitted by blank of the calendar.
I mean, one of the issues has always been once the honoree is designated, then you work with them to find out when they would be.
When they can be
available.
available.
I think you say rolling submissions. Couldn't you just say rolling submission? I mean, because then it could be on us, like when you have like the opportunity to do a ceremony, or B, when that person's available. I mean, because then the council could at any point in time be like, oh, we have a really good candidate here. Let's proceed with this person. Doesn't mean that those people that were nominated prior, like you could still keep them.
On the list.
I don't know. Just, I don't know that if we have to define that yearly time, because it has been dependent upon when that person's available. If they're traveling that month, you know, some of the people have been quite, you know, prominent people that have busy schedules, so.
And I don't think that matters to somebody making a nomination.
Yeah.
When the.
Yeah,
board is-
they just want the person acknowledged,
Yeah.
so.
It's nice for public event consistency to have a time, but it's not possible within the framework of how this program works, because it's dependent upon.
But can it be a season? So if you say, like, we had a fall, so fall is September, October, November, so probably somebody could fit in there, and you say by, you know, April 1st, so that there's time to connect, and I mean, what would allow us, but I think having rolling submissions, I think is good, but having submission deadlines, so that there's time to plan, and so they can be an annual event that people know to look for, and that we can plan.
I mean, if you're gonna designate a season, you're gonna have to have a cutoff date, so we can start.
Right. But then during that season, you can choose your time.
Theoretically, the event doesn't have to be for just one honoree either.
Excuse me?
You could do a dual honoree, like two honorees at one event.
So we're thinking that Jerry would be the next honoree, and she would be potentially, we don't know when the signage would be ready, but it would be sometime when it's nicer, warmer weather, spring, summer. Then, I mean, we could either, then the next year it could be fall or whatnot, or we could just decide that because I think we've usually been in like October, right?
More-
And
more
then,
likely, I mean,
yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, I guess you could look, I think why it started in February is that was a time when people weren't sort of.
yeah, there was not a lot on the calendar.
overload.
Yeah.
That
makes
where you
sense.
get into the spring,
Right.
into the fall,
It gets
that
busy.
happens, but still, I think we've done it a lot.
So, but that's a good point, that you could acknowledge Jerry, but also another, potentially, if we had another person for 2024, we have in the past, I think, waited and
Yeah.
given an
We've done that,
awardee
right,
for the previous year.
Sure.
So you could, as long as you have a larger outpouring of like community support, people are out, you could give another.
I would almost see Jerry, in my opinion, I would almost see Jerry's as like a special one, because she's got a parking
Yeah.
named after her, right? Like,
Yeah.
so that you can almost plan for the next fall celebration and grab your 24 if you wanted to and pull them in the fall of 25. You can take, new nominations as well. So you can literally have like 3 months apart, 2 different awards going out, the same award, but it's, I mean, Jerry's, I would not put someone else on Jerry's event.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
point.
That's
So
true. Yeah. So I guess the question is, are we going to try to do an awardee prior to this award potentially in the spring, summer for Jerry, or are we going to table and do a ceremony after that fact? Or does anyone have any other people to consider besides the one nominee, right?
Or do we need to put something on the website? Are we gonna ask, for the 24, we're gonna ask for, that's the other question.
Yeah. Do we want to start that?
Do we want to start that now to get?
I think the
some
problem I
names?
see with opening it up now is by the time you get the nominees and get the awareness that it's out there from
It's
the
gonna be-
public, it's gonna be pretty tight to do anything before that
has to be
spring
25.
event, so it would have to be the following year. So I guess my recommendation would be, do we have somebody internally with kind of our previous system that we want to acknowledge for this 2024 year?
Or Pam Bliss's.
Or Pam Bliss's, yeah, is that somebody we want to consider? Or do we want to kind of wait and do this larger thing, but wait until it's the following year to do that?
Tom Engelhardt, that's what it was.
Oh.
Tom Engelhardt, he lived in Webster.
And I think it expands it. It's a different, political cartoon.
Posthumous, so there's not much of an event there.
Well, our first one
Yeah.
was half posthumous, so we started.
Yeah.
See if Betty's Books or something can partner with you, because they're all comics based focused. and
Well, we
yada,
can
yada,
be
yada.
next to both theirs.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like
She's
whole-
moving,
okay,
she's
good.
moving, so I don't know.
Oh,
she's right.
She's moving to Crossroads.
Sorry, what?
She's doing it crossroads.
So she would not be.
Oh, I don't know, maybe,
It's
I'm just saying she's got a move going on, I don't know
So,
what their
what-
timeline is and such.
Hey, Eric, if I send something to you, would you put it up there?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'm gonna take a picture of this, which was. When I first did this, I found just some other sites that had. Some forms that looked at just some reception. And we'd have to add the new. Where should I send this?
Peterson E at WebsterGroveMode.com. Or you use the text, you want to send a text or you.
Here's something.
I like the idea of being consistent. There's only 1 year missing from submitting an artist, and that was a very good excuse. So I would recommend, and I would recommend that we do an award for 2024 this fall. I would also recommend that we're not under pressure to get the absolute, like, but go ahead and start collecting requests and making it a public statement of like, here's a form, fill it out, share who's
Did you
valuable.
make that as a motion
And, but also with the understanding that the award for 25 will likely be
and Jerry?
combined with Jerry and a naming ceremony.
So
So,
Jerry's
and I
will
think
be
it's,
at the naming ceremony. We could
Yeah.
do the other, if there's another person for 25, we can do it at a different.
an
time.
additional one, yeah,
Yeah.
but,
Should we first vote on whether we want to do Engelhardt for?
Yes, I was gonna
probably
ask you.
four?
or at least pursue, yeah, and ask
And
his
then
family.
the second thing is, yeah, right, so we do work, and then the second thing is to go ahead and put this up. I think they're not mutually exclusive. So I propose Pam Bliss's idea, Tom Engelhardt. Tom,
Oh,
yeah.
Second. Discussion.
All those in favor?
I
I don't know, some of us that staying.
It's concept of a political party.
So.
Yeah, but I'm still not just gonna go jump right in, especially I also prefer to have another person to kind of go against them.
To go.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're honestly just, it's very.
Moses.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Family?
This
Oh, yeah.
Pam gave me the obituary. I will find out from Pam if she knows tonight at council. Knows anyone? I know his wife passed already. I think. So I might be looking for children.
There's also the chance that if the family declines to receive the award, so we would have to move on to another person as well. And yeah, I think that. Great, right.
And if getting to an event this year is too tough, you can always do what we do for parade awards and come and have a moment with council, and you and the council could present the lifetime achievement, to his family here at council meeting or something like that. So if instead of trying to pull together an event in a month and a half or something.
do think it gets hairy when you don't have family members that are like in town or willing to do it, because then it seems like it's an award for award's sake versus like a celebration of the person. So it can be tough. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie, last year I was very excited that Max Cassidy showed up for you guys because he was not good.
Yeah.
And it was just trying to get them there.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Real quickly, in addition, getting back to, public,
Mhm.
nominations.
Yes.
I just sent you something.
Okay.
Put it up there for a second. We can talk about it.
Yep.
Because if we add in culinary arts.
By email?
Yeah.
Okay.
And add in Maud's statement about how they're connected. And then I just pulled together some forms, initially looking at some other cities, and what they put in. Really simply, what a forms could be that can go up there.
Don't see it yet.
No.
You just need Webster.mo.gov.
Yep. Other, maybe I should, no.
I got checks to cut for Jazz Fest, that's what it says.
Sure, sometimes it's a photo. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe would texting be faster?
I won't go up there though. That's a problem.
I'm maybe emailing
Yeah, I
around the
will.
language to everybody and then
Yeah.
talking about it
It's not
next time.
sending for some reason. Okay, I'll send it, yeah, because there was also in one of the earlier forms, or earlier emails, I sent a form. That kind of incorporated a lot of other
Oh,
words,
did it?
really simple,
Yeah.
so I'll
Yeah,
just send it to that
You can recreate that.
Yeah.
easily.
and add your comment about it. I'll put in the most recent qualifications, adding in culinary arts, adding in Maud's statement about ties to Webster,
Sure.
and then attach this potential form again and get everybody.
Then we just have to work out
Okay.
deadlines or if there are dates and how we.
I'll do that for you. That's fine.
We want to move on to it.
Old business.
I know I need to get going.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so we make a motion to, we're gonna.
Table
to Send, you're gonna send that. to us,
We don't
right?
need to make a motion, I'll just send it.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
but I won't put it up publicly. We'll get a draft prepared for you all to look at.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, should we make a motion to,
is there anything critical about old business that we need to talk about? Or any additional city updates that we need to receive before we pursue?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So for next,
We have to review that, we can review the minutes next time.
so next month, can we finalize any
Mhm.
lifetime achievements?
Yep.
Do we want to start talking about community fighting models? This gonna take a while for.
I'd like to hear what the city council has to say about that.
Right, we might have.
I'd love to, but I just,
David, did you have something you want to say before we can?
Yeah, really quick on the ideas that I had put on the table. First of all, I'm not leaving Webster. Secondly, it's really clear from Alex's great presentation, and this is the whole thing. Public art screens. You don't see theater, you don't see music in the presentation. It's really public art. And none of the 6 or 8 events that I've been involved with have anything to do with that. And so I think we just ought to like park company. Our little events, they're little, fly under the radar. They're all for free. We don't get sponsors. This is the way we've operated for 5 or 6 years. And I just think you all do a great thing on your focus. We're focused in another area. We're still all focused on the arts. But you all are really public art. We're music, theater, and stuff like that. So. And Lucy and Henry can come and follow your heart next April. And that's our thing. And it'll be fine. So you guys don't have to worry about us.
Oh, we appreciate what you're doing. That's great.
Good luck tonight. We'll be here. So.
I don't have any other city updates other than tonight.
Guys, is there still money in the budget to pay Catherine Knockel for repair on her? Okay.
Yes.
Because it's taking a while, but I think she's going to go and give us a estimate.
Okay.
Updates on the banners?
Mhm.
Yes.
I do not want to get into the logo conversation. I do, the longest story short of it is businesses were not quick to pick up on buying into the program. So We put a pause to that because it was gonna turn out the city was gonna buy like 40 of them, you know what I mean, to make the program fly. And we just need to go back and come back, look at next year, do the same program. Rick heard some good feedback, I think
Yeah, I
will
think
be
it-
informative to this conversation.
They didn't
They
read.
didn't, they
It
didn't
didn't
like
read
it.
well to us. So we honestly probably would have been better going with what was presented to us. I mean, though that resonates with us and what it is, you know, they needed something more simple that says city of the arts and stuff like that. So, yeah, the two businesses that I spoke to just wasn't their size, their design.
So lots of different feedbacks from other business like, what is this? Why are we buying a banner? So there was a lot of different things. I think there's some things to talk about if we stick with that same company or not, or if we just go a whole different model. So we do know they need to be replaced. We've got many of them fading off them. It's getting to be that time for them. So
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.